All right, welcome back. Well, actually, apologies for your younger brother there. Well, you were the one we're interviewing today. Abdullahi Tanko Yakasai, SSA Community Engagement, Northwest to the President. He joins us here in the studios. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chamberlain.
So, what is the current situation now, ever since your appointment?
First of all, before I say anything, I would like to thank Mr. President for this opportunity given to me as a Senior Special Assistant on Northwest Community Engagement. Well, we've just started, we've just gotten the appointment, and we're working around the clock to see what is it that we're going to do, what is it that we're going to bring to the people, especially our zone, the Northwest, because community engagement entails a lot. You have to collaborate, probably first and foremost, with the chief executive of that state, that's the governor, make sure programs of government are getting down to the grassroots. From then, you now have to engage with the traditional rulers because they are the custodians of the traditions, you know, and the cultural heritage of those people. So it has a lot of segments for which we have to be engaging to make sure the policies and programs of His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is being felt by the people at the grassroots level, be it the youth groups, women groups, vulnerables, displaced people, disabled people. It entails a lot. So we've just started and we're working around the clock to make sure whatever policy is there from the federal government, it trickles down to the right channel, the right people. So that is what...
Does it mean that you're going to be, in addition to your role, will that also entail supervision to ensure all of these policies get down, and then you're also coming up with what, advice, or how is that going to play out?
Well, you see, we've never had this kind of position before.
Yeah.
This is the first time Mr. President has thought it well that there's a big disconnect between the government and those at the downtrodden of the ladder. So we will be engaging, we will be discussing, we will be giving suggestions, and we will be making sure all programs of government trickle down to those at the lower level, be it in terms of provision of education, on SMEs, on whichever aspect it is the scope is so wide, you just have to be strategic to make sure whatever you're going to do, key into what the government is
Because
doing.
I mean, looking at the Northwest, that's huge. It means you have to be moving around different states, local government areas. Well, doesn't this show that there really is indeed a gap, notwithstanding the fact that you will have state governors who are supposed to do a job, we have local government chairmen, we have councillors, we have members of the House of Reps at the federal level, we have states who are all they're there to ensure that policies, whatever they do, get to the people. It looks as if there's still work to be done.
There's a whole lot of work to be done because all these people you're mentioning are key actors, you know, and they do their own bit. But this is for you to be directly getting those things needed to be done and advising the federal government, especially Mr. President, that there's a challenge here, there's a challenge there. And then if you prefer a solution, maybe the federal government will look at it and collaborate with the state actors so that things are being done rightly. You know, there's a huge place because we have 7 states in the Northwest, which is the biggest. And we'll do our best because, just like I said, this is the maiden. Where the maiden.
I was just wondering, having been appointed, many will wonder, so what structure, what template, what indices are you going to be looking at for, with which you'll be able to come up with your judgment or measurement? Because here, time and again, we've always asked, if states say they're distributing palliatives, what is for instance, is there a template, is there a document, is there a list that anybody can check and say, indeed, these people say, yes, they have gotten this is a standard or accepted list. So what would you be relying on?
You see, the state governors have their independence because they're the chief executives of those states. So whatever they're doing, like on the issue of the palliatives you mentioned, yes, the governors have done their best, and we've seen it. You, the media, should tell us more, because we've seen in some states where the governors directly get involved, like Katsina State. It's everywhere. They directly get involved in disbursement of these palliatives. So all we need to do with our position is to make sure we follow up the latter, to make sure that this distribution is done transparently, with all honesty, and that those that are meant to benefit from these programs surely benefit. There are lots of programs from the federal government that our people don't even access. You see, there's Maiden, there's NDE, there's primary health care, there's a whole lot of agencies that are meant to be doing a lot of things for the common man. So we will pursue even these agencies to make sure this kind of programs go to those people at the lower cadre of the society.
You know, when you talked about engagement, community engagement, you mentioned governors, you mentioned traditional rulers. You've just mentioned some of the things that the federal government is doing, and you're talking about getting it to the grassroots. How much of the grassroots would you be getting into? If you're talking about governors and traditional, they are there. Chairman has mentioned that. They're already there. So there's really nothing, in quote, new that you're going to be talking to them that they don't already know. Are you going to be asking them, or would you be going into the nooks and crannies to ask the people? That question about the data you're going to be working with.
Yes, that is what Mr. President expects from us. We need to go down to those villages, those local governments. You see, like the issue of, a whole lot of issues. But I can take, for example, one, the issue of maternal death. You know, this is one peculiar area where we've been having a lot of challenges. And it doesn't take much for us to reduce the number of maternal deaths. So these are some of the things that you need to go and do your best. Make sure all the sufferings of the people at the lower cadre is being incentivized, maybe through these agencies of government, through NGOs. There are a lot of NGOs that are ready to partner with the states, that are ready to come into the country, especially now with the goodwill of Mr. President. They want to come in and do a lot. So we have to engage them too. The traditional rulers, they don't have a constitutional role, but they are the custodians of the traditional institution. They know what the problem of their people are. And these are kind of engagements we'll do so that we get feedback, because feedback is very key. We get feedback and then channel it to the right channel.
To stay on this question. I mean, you said this is new. This is the first time this office is emerging. Yeah. It's never been.
Yeah.
And fortunately, you've been privileged to be the first to occupy this office. So some people out there will be asking, okay, Mr. Tanko Yakasai, tell us what your dream is to ensure that this office is impacting. What's your vision? How are you going to ensure? I mean, with specifics. Okay. You're talking in general terms now.
Okay.
But let's break it down a little bit. How are you going to ensure that you're engaging enough to bring the president the information he needs, make policies that will reach to the grassroots?
We'll take what we intend to do, like from my zone, we intend to take those critical areas like unemployed youth. We're targeting sectors like the ICT and see how many numbers can we come up with? What programs can we do with the youth so that they can be engaged on ICT, on renewable energy, on agriculture, on small and medium enterprises, on vocational and skills acquisition, health. You know, these are things we have highlighted that we will pursue and make sure that we get people not only to train them like on skills acquisition and vocational training, but we follow it up and make sure that these people become self-independent.
Wouldn't that be a duplication of duties or responsibilities? Because the local government councillors are there. They'll probably tell you that this is what they'll be looking at also, how to get the youth employed, how to give them skills. And some have even gone ahead, it's out there in media space that some went to give them shoe shining kit in some states.
Yes.
But these are there are governments in place and institutions in place that are already doing this. Wouldn't that be duplicating functions?
It's not been
Would you be looking at how to ensure that they have power?
It's not.
What are they going to do with lack of power? What are they going to do with no information out there? Information for them to access some of the things you said are there already.
Yes, you see, this is why Mr. President thought of creating these positions. Because, yes, the local government are doing their best. They are doing their own part. But the truth of the matter is, do they get access to the top, that's to the federal government, to lay out their programs and problems? So once you have that connect between the presidency and the local people, you telling the president what you think is given those bottlenecks, that will bring synergy, I think, because local government chairman will not have access. We have 774 local governments. How can the president be engaging individual local government chairman? It's not going to be possible. So you, as his representative there, you now get the peculiar problem of that region, and then you table it to Mr. President and tell him, these are the bottlenecks for us to achieve this and this and this. And this is how he's going to use that information gathered for him to really make sure these programs are implemented for the betterment of Nigerians.
I'd like you to take a look at some of this information gathered. It's out there, actually. It has to do with the price of diesel, gas. Let's start with that of the Southwest. In Lagos, for instance, it's in parts of Lagos, you get diesel being sold for 980 naira per liter. Then you get that of PMS, in some areas, 595 naira per liter. If you move down to the Southeast, diesel, in some areas, 1,100. And then, gas is 950 naira per liter. And then the PMS that's cooking gas, actually. 915 for 12 kg. And then PMS 630 naira per liter. North Central, for instance, here in Abuja, diesel goes for 1,130. Cooking gas 12 kg, you get in some areas for 1,000 naira. No, not 1,000 naira actually. Then you get premium motor spirits 620 naira in some petrol stations. Yes, NNPCL maybe 613 thereabout. Then in the South, you get diesel going for 1,100, fuel 610 in Northeast, for instance, in Kano. Look at that price. So it's in Northwest too, where you're going to cover similar narrative. What kind of story, or what would you be telling people in Northwest, for instance, about this? Because already some of them feel, oh dear, how did we get ourselves into this?
Well, you see, the issue on this fuel subsidy, I keep telling people, Nigeria, we've been holding ourselves in a ditch because you can't give what you don't have. We've been borrowing money to be doing the subsidy. The cumulative generated revenue of the country monthly goes to servicing this subsidy. So for me, yes, people, it's biting hard. People are feeling the pains of removing fuel subsidy. But we can't continue to be borrowing to service the subsidy. So be it as it may, as you mentioned all these prices of PMS, of kerosene, and all the petroleum products, we have to look and be honest to ourselves. We don't have the money to subsidize. So the best thing is remove the subsidy, top up that money from the subsidy, and then use it to, develop the country. This is what Mr. President is talking about. The governors of the 36 states of the Federation haven't had this kind of, allocation in the last 8 years, because every money that comes to the government is used in subsidizing fuel. So the chunk of the money now that we have as excess from the stoppage of the, subsidy is what is being given to the states, and they're using it for palliatives. There could be other forms of incentivizing the local people, the Nigerians, with this subsidy fuel. But to be honest with you, You can't be borrowing money every day to feed yourself, to do all the services you need, while you don't have the source of income to repay that loan. So this is the reality. So we have to do a lot of awareness campaigns through TV stations like yours, through radio stations, through community enlightenment programs, so as to tell the people the benefit of removing this fuel subsidy. Because the money is going to only few people. But now, how many people have gotten this palliatives?
They don't see those few
How
people.
many people have gotten this palliatives?
That they say,
before it was only, you can count the number of people getting the chunk of the money from the subsidy.
Now the thing is this, if it's going to those few people, it's assumed that they're acquiring it wrongly. But at the moment, there hasn't been anything whatsoever to indicate that this and those people are guilty of having frittered away this subsidy as a result of which we're putting a stop to it. That hasn't happened. And even if you tell them, well, we need to do this because of this, they're going to ask, okay, so what's the end game? Are we going to, because look, if it's going to be based on the exchange of the dollar, we know what to expect because it will keep rising. So there'll be so many questions at that.
So, well, honestly, we have to face reality. We have to face reality because this money from the fuel subsidy is being channeled to various segments that will impact the lives of the people.
Some are saying, use that money, build refineries, so you can rein in the cost of petroleum
Hopefully, we're hoping the Port Harcourt refinery is coming on board by December. Once that is done, the Warri refinery comes on board, the Kaduna refinery comes on board, the Dangote refinery comes on board, then you see that the price will be going down. These are realities. We have had a lot of, we've abandoned our responsibility, and that is why Mr. President is being respected now worldwide, because they are taking the bull by the horn. This subsidy has to go. It is just, you know it, Chamberlain. It has to go. But the only thing is, we would like to see that it is being channeled to the right places, and that is why, in fact, Mr. President thought of coming up with these positions, so that whatever he's going to do with this surplus, so to say now, that we have from the, which is the, from the removal of the fuel subsidy, whatever surplus we're going to have should be channeled appropriately so that the Nigerian populace, the poor, will feel the impact, be it in terms of agriculture, be it in terms of infrastructure, be it in terms of social programs, healthcare, and all of that. These are what people need. Once they have this comfort, we're good to go.
Ayo, okay.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Well, let me begin by asking you this. I mean, I'm looking at statistics that we all know. Zamfara State as well as Kaduna State have been embroiled in a lot of insecurity challenges over the years. And since you are all about community engagement, we listen to security experts who continue to tell us that there is a lot of intelligence information that comes from the communities, and if we action them, we will not have the kind of challenges we are having in terms of insecurity. So in that regard, what kind of counsel would you be giving to Mr. President from your region, the Northwest in particular, concerning community engagement to stave the rate and the spate of insecurity?
Well, it's so unfortunate that the Northwest now is bedeviled by this issue of insecurity. But we have to look at the root cause of this insecurity. And the root cause of the insecurity has to do with out-of-school children, unemployment. These are all what is bringing about insecurity in the nation. So we need to, first of all, look at how do we tackle these issues so that our youth will be engaged, they will be employed. Those out-of-school children, we should find a way of making sure that they are getting education. So that is first and foremost thing to do. Then You see, the issue of security is a very sensitive thing, which I'm not an expert on that, but I think Mr. President is doing his best to see that from the way you see the appointments being made of the service chiefs, the security architecture, you know, he has given a lot of priority on these appointments to people from the Northwest, because that is now the hotspot of insecurity in Nigeria. So from the ministers to the service chiefs, if you look at it, the two ministers of defense are from Northwest. The chief of army staff is from Northwest. The chief of defense staff is from Northwest. The chief of air staff is from my state, Kano. So he has built around the architecture of the security so that they work together and make sure they tame this insecurity issue. There's a lot of infiltration. I don't want to get into it, honestly, because I'm not an expert on security. But I think Mr. President is doing his best to make sure insecurity is being tackled.
Well, that is definitely something everyone is glad about. However, the reality, stares us in the face. Of course, we know you are not an expert in the area of insecurity, but at least the fact that you can counsel the president on community engagement is what this whole conversation is about. A good number of people, and I'm glad my colleagues also, questioned you around your conversations with local government authorities, and you also said the other time that the president cannot see all, may not be able to have access to all local government chairmen and all. But as someone who will be advising in the area of community engagement, insecurity starts from the localities. Insecurity is local as well as security. That's why the question is coming to you along that line. While you say that the other time some security chiefs are from your states, don't also forget that we have governors in these states. There are a number of them that have questioned whether or not collaboration is enough. They have had any semblance of collaboration to ensure that they do the needful in that area. Those are some of the questions that we'll be putting to you when we return from this break. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We still have with us the SSA to the president on community engagement, Northwest, Abdullahi Tanko Yakasai. That conversation that we're having with you, I mean, you would remember growing up that really the communities didn't really need the security agencies, the police or anyone. They found a way to secure themselves. They asked questions around who is who whenever they see any stranger in their environment. So security was a natural way of life. Add to that the fact that Kano has always been an economic hub of sorts as well as Kaduna, but what is coming out from the Northwest today is not very, very pleasant, where about 90-something% of people in Sokoto State, also in the Northwest, are said to be very, very poor, living in extreme multidimensional poverty. So, and you have also identified poverty and out-of-school children as the reasons for some of the insecurity issues we're having in the Northwest. So what would be your counsel to Mr. President, and what kind of collaboration would you suggest that will foster development, stave off insecurity, and improve the lives of the people?
Thank you so much. Just like you rightly said, when we were growing up, there was relatively no issue of insecurity then. So my suggestion has always been, you see, the traditional institutions, they have a very key important role to play, because they know their communities, they know the people they are governing, but they don't have any constitutional role. So there's need for, we will give advice that traditional rulers should have a constitutional role to play, because Well, whoever is domiciled in their domain, they know his character. They know who is good, they know who is bad. But the fact that they don't have any role to play constitutionally, that is making them not to be inactive. So we need to empower the traditional institutions, the community leaders. There has to be this constitutional role, defined constitutional role for traditional rulers, so as to be able to be checkmating all these people that are becoming, you know, menace to the society. So this is one. Then on the issue of the, you know, reduction of poverty, a lot needs to be done. A lot of work needs to be done. There has to be collaboration between the federal government, the state governments, and the local governments, so that there is need for a lot of programs, because government cannot do it alone. Government cannot be able to employ everybody. So we need to really concentrate on SMEs. We need to really get funding from NGOs, development partners, you know, and multinational companies that do a lot of corporate social responsibility. So it entails a lot. There is a lot of work needed to be done so that this youth get engaged, you know, on different sectors, on different facets of life, that they can be earning and become independent. So this is my suggestion, and I think Mr. President is really looking into this area so that we get a lot of our youth engaged, get them employed, not directly by federal government, but how they can become you know, they can sustain themselves and their families. It's very important. This is one area that I think will really work to develop a concept, will conceptualize ideas on how we can, what we bring to the president, so that a lot of this unemployment gets reduced. Once that is done, you have already taken the right step in reducing insecurity.
And I imagine that's the purpose for which your office, novel as it is, was designed. And I wonder what your findings in that regard would be. And that will form, you know, the crux of my question. Is there anything, Chamberlain had asked you earlier, but I wonder if your answer was satisfactory enough. Is there anything to suggest that the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs is working with the subnationals in your geopolitical zone to take a second look at the social register from the past administration for the distribution of palliatives? Because it appears as if the governors are adopting an approach that suits them. Is there anything to suggest that that is ongoing so that the palliatives can in fact get to the vulnerable that actually need them?
Yes, absolutely, because from the time the Minister of Humanitarian, my sister Beta Edu, got appointed as the minister, she has come up and designed a lot of programs, especially what you talk about, the social register. They said they're going to make sure that they follow it logically to make sure those people on that register are really the beneficiaries of this social investment, you know? That is one. And she has made appointments just last week, or is it earlier this week? She has made appointments for each of these categories so that she will be having reportage directly to her, you know? So she has done a lot in re-strategizing that ministry, you know, because, well, a lot of people are thinking Ministry of Humanitarian is the sole ministry that will bring poor Nigerians out of poverty. There are other ones that are very strategic. Ministry of Education, we must make sure Ministry of Education get a whole lot of budget. I've seen Mr. President said the budget on Ministry of Education is going to increase significantly from next year. The budget on education, budget on health, so that our hospitals will be equipped. I mean, there are so many parameters to work on so as to bring out Nigerians out of this challenge that is facing us that is making the country continuously nosediving, you know. So we need to do a lot, not only on humanitarian, but on other ministries, other agencies and departments that are relevant to socio-economic problems, so that we'll bring them on board, all of this, we'll bring them on board and make sure that we better the society, we bring a lot of development, we bring a lot of social, you know, security to the people. So it's not just Ministry of Humanitarian we're looking at. There are other key ministries that also need to be involved and work in synergy to bring about this development.
You know, this matter of engagement, engaging the community, the last election showed a lot of divisions amongst across party lines. So when is your duty just about engaging them for development, or would it also involve a mindset reorientation so that get the people to believe more in Nigeria and then work together to get Nigeria?
This is very, very important. You see, this community engagement goes just beyond what we've been talking about. So this is a very important question because it's part of it. Social reorientation. That's why we need to use the you know, media a whole lot to bring about this reorientation. Do a lot of programs, awareness programs that will bring us together, because Nigeria is a great nation. We have the our population, our diversity should be our strength. It should not be otherwise. So we need to have social reorientation. The elections have come and gone. And so it is very important that we all come on together. That is why Mr. President is giving a hand of friendship to even the opposition parties to come together, because we have no other country. This is our country, and the future of our children is very important. So we need to come together and work for the betterment of Nigeria. So this social reorientation is very key. Mr. President is not, there's been a lot of cries that he's been appointing people that did not even work for him or worked against him. But that's to show you the character of Aswaju. Mr. President, His Excellency Aswaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That is his character. He's a man with a large heart. He accommodates everyone. And so people should look at it in this way and give him a chance. It's just 100 days or so in office, because it's too early to see visibly the results he's working to get, but we get there.
All right, let's wind down with this. I mean, so at the end of the day, what indices would you be looking at for which you can then say, well, we think we've done the job here? Would you be relying on the testimony or testimonial from the people, or the indices that you set for yourself?
Well, it has to be both. Because for us, in the Renewed Hope mandate, Mr. President aimed to generate 20 million employment, to take out 20 million people and get them employed, you know, either by, not through government alone, by empowerment and SMEs and what have you. So we'll be working with that, his Renewed Hope mandate agenda, and make sure that we work towards, with the indices that are being placed in that Renewed Hope mandate, we'll be working to achieve all these milestones. Gradually, we'll be working to achieve all these milestones. For instance, in the Northwest, which is the largest in terms of population, if, for instance, we, in each state, we're able to generate a 1 million job in the next 4 years. That's 7 million jobs. It's achievable. We can do it. If the will is there, we can do it. Because you can get a lot of programs and put these young ones on it and make sure you follow it strategically for it to be sustainable.
But how sustainable do you think these things will be if we don't address the question of power supply?
That is one key area that Mr. President, remember, Mr. President is the first governor, or is the first person in Nigeria to have an independent power plant in Lagos. He was the first person to do that. So the issue of power, without it, there can't be any development. There can't be any change. So power is very critical to the economy. And Mr. President is working seriously to make sure we improve this power. The Minister of Power recently said there's going to be an increase, I think between, is going to, in the next 4 years, they're looking at generating 5,000 megawatts to add to what we have. So there are a lot of bottlenecks on this power sector. Once you bring on all these independent power plants, like in China, I've read it somewhere that China uses hydro, little hydro power plants coming up together to make a quantum of megawatts that is sustaining part of the Chinese people. So even if we look at this, the wind is there, the solar is there, the hydro is there, we can do a lot.
Well, we'll wait and see, because we know governments did say they were going to provide, what, 10,000, 20,000, 40,000. We know where we are as of today.
This government has the will, Mr. Chamberlain.
Well, you know what they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
That is true.
We'll hold that this, as you say, this government has the will. We'll see. We all expect things to go well, actually. But it will be interesting to see how all of these things play out. But thank you for coming on. Tanko Yakasai is the Senior Special Advisor to Assistant to the Community Engagement to the President for the Northwest region. We will be back in a moment. Stay on with us.